This is Real News Media TV, coverage you can trust. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates. In the Wandon gang trial, several charges against the Andre Blackman Brand and his co-accused dismissed. Chief Justice Brian Sykes has ruled that the Crown has failed to make out a case against the defendants in the Klansman Wandon gang trial in respect to 4 more counts on the indictment. As a result, 2 more alleged murder charges against the reputed gang leader, Andre Blackman Brand, has been dismissed. The gun charges against the 2 defendants in connection to one of the firearm that was allegedly recovered from the gang has also been dismissed. Count 17, which speaks to the murder of Tesha Miller's bus driver in 2018, also fell by the wayside. The Chief Justice, prior to making his ruling, said the witness did not give satisfactory evidence in relation to where the witness was when he saw the murder. He said there was no evidence that speaks to lighting or distance. Michael Whiteley and Brian Morris were found not guilty. 2 of St. James' most wanted turned themselves in. Just days after releasing a list of the most wanted men in the parish, the St. James police are reporting that 2 of the men on the list have turned themselves in. Tad J. Clark, otherwise called the Fathead, turned himself into the police on Friday, June 17. He was accompanied by his lawyer. Clark was wanted in relation to the triple murder that occurred in Rose Heights on May 25. Armed men opened fire at a party, leaving Chadwell Fraser, Chamaria Calvin, and Tonian Reed dead. Clark was also being sought in connection with the fatal shootings of O'Neill Thelwell and Junior Clark. Both men were gunned down in the Greenpoint community on March 15. The other man now in custody is Christopher Bigfoot Campbell, who turned himself into the police in the St. Elizabeth Division on Saturday, June 18. Campbell was being sought in connection with the double murder of Suwane Pennicott and her common-law husband, Barrington Clark, who were shot and killed at their house on June 4. The police are appealing to the other individuals on the list of the parish's most wanted to cooperate and turn themselves in. They are also urging members of the public who may know the whereabouts of these men to share that information. St. Catherine residents urged to cooperate with security forces. Commissioner of Police Major General Anthony Anderson is urging the public to exercise patience and to comply with the security forces as they carry out enhanced operations in St. Catherine, for which a public state of emergency has been declared. Anderson stated that within the boundaries of the SOE, which went into effect on Friday, June 17, after an announcement by Prime Minister Andrew Holness, the suite of operations being undertaken will see increased presence and movements of the security forces. We will attempt to manage the impact of our activities on persons going about their normal business. However, there's likely to be some disruption and delays, and we ask for your patience and understanding as we collectively respond to the violence in St. Catherine, he said. The police commissioner advised that the public could assist by complying with the security officers at checkpoints, adhering to the curfew guidelines, and notifying the Jamaica Constabulary Force of any breaches of professional conduct by members. For persons residing outside of St. Catherine, please advise us if you see persons turning up in your communities that you may have concerns about, he said, noting that the public can call the JCF tip line at 811, police emergency at 119, or Crime Stop at 311 to provide information. Chief of Defense Staff Rear Admiral Antoinette Wims Gorman reiterated the commissioner's call for patience, pointing out that the purpose of these operational activities is not to inconvenience citizens, but rather to add a robust element of security for law-abiding citizens while we work earnestly to rid the communities of criminal elements. We therefore ask that the citizens who live, work, or travel within the areas impacted by the SOE cooperate with the members of the security forces on the ground. We are all working toward a common goal of making Jamaica a safer place, and this can only be achieved through a unified effort. So I endorse and reinforce the words of the Commissioner of Police to ask citizens to engage us through the various means of providing information to assist in ridding your communities of crime and violence, she said. DPP rules a cop to be charged for infant death in car. The Jamaica Constabulary Force should charge the St. Elizabeth police sergeant, whose 12-month-old daughter died after being locked in his car, the Director of Public Prosecutions has recommended. DPP Paula Llewellyn handed down the ruling last week, the news has learned. The file has been submitted to the Office of the Commissioner of Police. The policeman, Detective Sergeant Sheldon Dobson, who is attached to the Black River Police Station in St. Elizabeth, reportedly forgot his daughter in his car in January on the station compound between the hours of 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. The infant, who was found in the vehicle unconscious, was rushed to the Black River Hospital, where she was pronounced dead during treatment. Dobson was expected to take the child to the daycare but went to work. Both of the child's parents are reportedly employed to the Jamaica Constabulary Force and are stationed in the parish. Persons close to the family say Dobson would not have deliberately or recklessly left his daughter in the car. He is too much of a good father to do that, said a family friend. During the family's ordeal, members of the community said that it would have been the child's third day at daycare. Her grandmother, who would have been taking care of her under normal circumstances, had fallen ill, causing the parents to have the child enrolled in daycare. I know people are going to say she's a child and how we forget, but sometimes even your phone in your hand and you are looking for it, said a family friend. Avoid more litigation, seek to compensate victims of SOE abuse, opposition urges. The parliamentary opposition is urging the government to establish a committee to conduct an investigation and to compensate persons who were detained unlawfully during the 2018 state of emergency in St. James. Senator Scott Motley, opposition spokesman on justice, is recommending that the authorities go this route in the wake of Friday's Supreme Court ruling that several provisions of the 2018 emergency powers regulations were unconstitutional. Attorneys have predicted that the $17.8 million award to taxi operator Rasheen Clark, whose fundamental rights the court ruled were violated, will open a floodgate of lawsuits against the state by persons who were detained under the state of emergency. Senator Scott Motley told the news that it may be a good idea for an assessment to be done and the matter settled out of court.
I'm not sure that we would need to have a commission of inquiry in the same way that we had the Tivoli Commission of Inquiry. But I do think that what we need to do is to establish an investigation into all the persons who would have had their fundamental rights and freedoms breached. Because remember, it's not every person who is detained who would be compensated. There are reports which were made of persons being detained and released in a timely fashion and so on. But it is true that there are hundreds of young people who were detained unconstitutionally, according to the reports. The opposition has always been ready to sit at the table to devise legal and constitutional measures which will help the country to fight this terrible scourge of crime. And I frankly think that part of what we need to do is that we need to create a revolution amongst well-thinking members of the society where we can come together to fight against those few individuals who have a reign of terror over the rest of us.
Attorney Clive Monroe has agreed that the government might need to set up a mechanism to deal with possible claims for compensation for unlawful detentions under the state of emergency.
It's going to cost the taxpayers millions of dollars, hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. In fact, as it is right now, perhaps you have a class action suit looming, or the government might need to set up a tribunal for the purpose of addressing this issue, just for the purpose of compensating redress to take them out of court. The court had asked a question, whether or not if the aim of the state of emergency, as declared at that time in the parish of St. James, was to curtail gang violence and the movement, criminal activities of gangs, then why was it not focused on gangs as opposed to ordinary law-abiding citizens? I think that particular question is the question more than whether or not it's heavy-handed that the government needs to address. The methodology is going to continue to be questioned if it is the wrong methodology for what they wish to achieve.
Attorney at law Nicole Gordon stressed that if the government is going to be used in states of emergency, it must have protections in place to prevent the detention of regular citizens.
Because what the court is saying is, if it is that you are giving the police the right to arrest and detain, you're giving them these powers to arrest and detain. One, you have to show that we really, really need it. It's reasonably demonstrably justified. And two, you have to simultaneously protect the citizens because you have the ability to do that in a situation where there may in fact be absolutely no crime. And what happens to that person?
Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.